Hello, everyone. Lauren Wild, the Church Witch. We are going to drop into the Astroforecast for the week of July the 13th through the 20th. And so I've been just sitting with Astroforecast and where some resistance has been starting to build in me, and then also with my guides and my channel. And I was talking about this maybe last week or the week before that, but it was about how there's just so much anxiety in the collective mind right now that it will hit whoever's channeling, who's ever tapping into it, is by nature stepping into the energy of the collective right now, which is just very full of fear and uncertainty and a lot of anxiety. I've just been unfortunately picking up a lot of that. And so I've been kind of messing around with maybe doing more focus versus predictive, more and this, I don't really do predictive astrology. I do more conscious-based, choice-centered astrology, but just starting to kind of move the focus a little bit more into we know 2020 is a shit show. What are we going to do about it? Right? Moving more into the tools, the self-care, the advice pieces, and kind of trying to make a little bit more sense of some of these transits. And so essentially last week, I had a really heavy Chiron transit come in, and it really revealed a lot of really deep wounds that I thought that I had cleaved into pretty good over the last 5 years, but I realized there's just a lot more. There's always more healing to be done, and I think that for me, as a person with Saturn in the first house, it has been really important for me to extend a lot of love and grace, because there's always going to be work to do, such as being human, right? So what I'm going to focus on this week is pretty much just the general forecast of what's going on, energetic forecast, and then moving into what happened over the weekend with Chiron stationing retrograde. So the cards that I pulled to kind of get a sense of what's going on is I pulled the first house of the body, so the self and the ego, and then Mercury. So lots and lots of messages coming through. Mercury is Aries, the winged foot messenger. Also the magus, or the magician, or Thoth. And it comes with a lot of messages from a higher mind. It's also the ruler of Gemini and Virgo. And Gemini is where the North Node is right now. And, my guides told me, in the beginning of this year, that the North Node in Gemini would be all about beginner's mind. And as we are over halfway into 2020 now, I think it can be pretty easily seen as to why beginner's mind might be crucial. Pandemic brought a lot of awareness around maybe we need to grow our own food, and now we're all Googling how to plant a seed. Or maybe it's not even realizing your privilege, and now you are, and now you're reading different books on how to dismantle a white supremacist mindset, even when you didn't realize that those things had been deeply integrated into us from school and patriarchy and just deeply systemic things. And so Mercury is bringing a lot of messages. Yesterday, July 12th, was the day that Mercury stationed direct in Cancer. And Cancer is where the nodal axis was over the last 2 years, moved in on November 6, 2018. Cancer being the feminine, the mother, the house, your emotions, emotional intelligence, and the mantra of I nurture. And it's really going to drive that communication piece over the last 2 years. Venus retrograde is direct, but we are still in that shadow period, or what we like to call the retro shade, going direct over all of the degrees that it went through, when it stationed. And so really, we're not going to feel a sense of clearness, being in the present moment, in terms of our relationships and our finances and our communication drives, until about July 29th. Okay, that is when both Venus retrograde and Mercury retrograde are out of their retro shades. So what, my guides were showing me is that a lot of what we're looking at here is Saturn. So truth, a lot of, especially with the body and the mind and Saturn here. We've also got Black Moon Lilith, which reveals like our blind spots. Okay. So, and then we've got Venus and we've got the South Node. So we're talking about a purge here, knowing that Mercury is a huge part of it. Venus is a part of it. We are like really talking about seeing the ego and, Chiron stationing retrograde in Aries at 9 degrees of Aries. Aries says, I am. And it's the head, right? So it's very much about, and just so you know, Aries is the child of the zodiac. It's the very first sign. And Chiron is the shaman or the wounded healer and alchemist archetype. And so why all of that is important is because what's happening right now is that anytime Chiron stations retrograde or major transit is made to Chiron, it reveals these deep wounds within ourselves. And, once you name it, you can heal it. And so it's important to bring awareness to the wounds, start making notes about what are the things that trigger you. Like I've got a book that I write in every morning. You can always use your cards to bring a deeper sense of awareness to help you kind of name it. So if you're like, well, what's going on with me? You can always get out your cards and go within yourself and ask your cards to reveal the deeper things of what's going on. That's how I got into tarot, actually, is to use it as a self-growth tool. So knowing everything that we know about this just tells me that we are really doing a lot of shadow work as individuals and as a collective. There's going to be some pretty heavy transits this week, which I'm going to go ahead and start to dive into. Let me just go ahead and clear these out of my way and get my notes out so I don't forget anything. So right now it is about 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Monday, the 13th. The moon is at 29 degrees of Aries right now. Anytime there is a aspect of 29 degrees, it is what we call the culmination degree, or the anaretic degree, the karmic degree, where it's like it encompasses like the whole transit into like one moment, right? And so whatever went down for you this weekend, because the moon was also going over Mars, which was conjunct Chiron, which is like really like icky infliction of wounds. Like it just really, it really was like painful, fiery. You could have even felt like you were trembling, like literally like shaking. In somatic awareness or somatic experiencing, we know, or vagus nerve theory, vagal nerve theory, we know that trembling and shaking has been an evolutionary thing that helps animals, shake out of their trauma states back into like an anti-freeze zone. And it would be a great skill for us humans to learn how to tremble and shake, but that is an autonomic nervous system way of shaking off the trauma. So if you feel that where you're like, yesterday I was like trembling in my body, I knew I had to literally like go outside, put my bare feet on the earth and like shake, and like moan and groan. Like that is Chiron in Aries is like the primal wound, because Aries is very primal. It's just everything is very like Aries is the warrior. So we're looking at the wounded warrior archetype. And so Aries was like the initiator of the tribe that would put their ear to the ground and be way out in front of the tribe and like, signal back, like if you were safe and you could come, or they could smell a fire, or they'd be the first one on the front lines fighting. And so it's like, it brought up these very deep primal wounds, right? And because Aries is the child, we're talking about deep primal childhood wounds. And this just requires healing, which is great because today, the moon is going to be void for the majority of this afternoon. But later today, the moon's going to move into Taurus, and Taurus is very grounding. It's very healing. We are starting to move towards the dark moon, which we'll see this weekend. But essentially, we are looking at the next couple of days of being able to heal, all right? To slow down, to be more practical, focus on food, focus on your home, and just kind of like chill out, all right? The sun is still in Cancer, moving to the later degrees of Cancer now, where I think she's around like 21 degrees now. But essentially, we are going to start to see this whole week is mainly about the sun opposing the confluence in Capricorn. Okay. But today on Monday, we get a nice grounding, like healing day. Okay. The major transit today is just the starting to feel of the sun about to oppose the confluence, but it's also a sense of like a grounding, like a get your earth, get your wits about you, right? So the sun is going to oppose Jupiter retrograde tomorrow at 22 degrees. This is actually a really positive aspect. If you are like a humble human, like you could really see a lot of success and feel a deep sense of confidence, like the things are just like working out for you. However, if you're very driven towards power, the next couple of days could be really hard for you. And you could kind of like, get your ass handed to you. So on Wednesday, the sun is going to oppose Pluto at 23 degrees. All right. Pluto is all about power. Pluto is very, very deep aspects of a need to control things, a need for power and money and influence. And then the like positive side of Pluto is like teaching you how to rise into your own power and to regenerate, not just transform. Okay. Transform is very Scorpio. Pluto is the ruler of Scorpio, but Pluto is like 40 times more powerful than Scorpio, right? Infinitely more. And Pluto is very slow, 248 years to make a rotation around the sun. It is like very slow. It is regenerating. All right. Like very much like growing like one cell at a time, not like a fast transformation, right? Like we're talking about deep cellular regeneration. Okay. And so the sun in Cancer, which is about, nurturance and self-care and taking care of yourself and your home, whatever home means to you, and your relationship to your mother or you as the mother, in this opposition to Pluto in Capricorn, which is the father, right? So we are looking at this like big as above, so below situation this week, where Capricorn is the patriarchy and, Cancer is divine feminine. And so I'm really interested to see how that's going to affect America this week. But on an internal aspect, this is going to really pull out and identify, especially with the Chiron retrograde, very deep patterns of insecurity, of power struggles within yourself and self-sabotage cycles. Okay. The answer is to slow down and nurture because the sun is in Cancer. It is to heal. It is to focus on the body, right? Remember how I pulled the card was the body, the first self. It is very much like heal this week. Slow down, heal. All right. Now, on Thursday, the moon is going to move into Gemini. It's going to move us towards a deeper sense of clarity of mind. And then we're going to pretty much just have the energy of that, of the sun opposing Jupiter and Pluto. And it's already in a conjunction to Saturn retrograde, but we're going to see the exaction of Saturn retrograde on Sunday. Okay. Saturn is hard work and effort and having to push through challenges, and like to really like concretize your dreams and your goals. Okay. Saturn wants you to be successful, but it is not without blood, sweat, and tears. And then, oh yeah, don't want to forget Saturday, the moon moves into Cancer and this is dark moon energy. Okay. So this is where we start to like pull in and slow down. And then on Sunday or Monday, we have our new moon in Cancer. Okay. Late degrees of Cancer. And I'll get to that next week in the new moon report. So, that's like the major aspects for this week. The biggest thing that I would say would be the fact that Mars is around 8 to 9 degrees of Aries in a conjunction to Chiron when it stationed retrograde. And this is an important piece to recognize because Mars is going to retrograde for 6 months this year, right? Well, it's not going to retrograde for 6 months, but the whole Mars and Aries transit is 6 months total. So it is revealing things. Make sure you take notes and you write down the messages that are being sent to you by the universe and your own body, because it's an important aspect to focus on. Chiron is the wounded healer archetype or the shaman or the alchemist. And anytime that there's a Chiron aspect, like I said, it's going to bring up deeper wounds. So just see if you can name it. Like, what is the trigger? What is the thing that caused you to tremble, right? Like, I know what mine are. Do you know what yours are? And recognize that what makes Chiron so powerful is that Chiron learned to name the wound and then faced the wound, and then not only faced it, but then integrated it, and then turned around and started to work to heal others that have wounds similar to their own. Okay. Powerful archetype. And it's really amazing to work with. You can look at your own natal Chiron and see what sign it's in. Chiron is what we call the key of the chart. It looks like it has a little K, and then there's a little circle at the bottom. And this is, what we call the rainbow bridge between the inner planets and the outer planets. And it really is the most primal wounded part of your chart. Okay. It really shows you where the deep, deep wound is. I always share what my stuff is, because I believe that best teachers are transparent, because it's not about me or my ego. It's about teaching you guys tools. And my Chiron is in Gemini, of the wounded mind generation, right? We were the generation that, were all prescribed ADHD medication very young. We're kind of like the gerbil generation of pharmaceutical drugs for depression, anxiety, all that stuff. And so for those of you guys with the Gemini Chiron, you're going to get a lot of opportunity to heal over the next 2 years with the North Node moving through Gemini, really revealing those pieces. And then, really releasing out in Sagittarius, which would be closer to your first or second house of insecurities and old patterns of ways of being, right? So, look at your natal chart, look for that little K with a zero, like a little circle on the bottom. That's your Chiron, and which sign it's in. That will tell you a lot. You can Google that, and that'll be helpful. So hopefully this has been helpful to you guys. I hope that you guys are able to do some healing this week. I know that is predominantly my focus this week, is to ground, purge, and heal, because that Chiron, Mars, it opposed my sun in Libra, and I've just been dealing with a lot of conflict and just burnout. So definitely going to pull up some earth energy and purge out this week. Let me know what you guys are doing to take care of yourselves and to heal. I'll catch you guys next week.